Okay, so got a couple thoughts here. I was just looking at Twitter, and it appears to me that President what's his last name? Obrador of Mexico is really going on a tear against the United States, and I love it. And I think he sees an opportunity here with the worldwide disapproval of the United States, on top of the indications that the United States is on the decline, with all of the news about de-dollarization, which is grossly exaggerated, but nonetheless, that news is out there. I think President Alamo sees a golden opportunity in which he's going to tap into this nascent nationalism and anti-imperialism in in Mexico, which is there, and maybe he's going to do something, move towards closer relationships with China or Russia, and now would be the perfect time to do it, because even though the United States obviously has the United States government has no problem contradicting itself. That's one reason why the rest of the world's kind of getting fed up. But even if that's the case, it would be difficult for the United States to mount a serious opposition to Mexico seeking relations with rivals of the United States, such as Russia and China. It would be difficult for the United States to really put together a serious opposition to that, while at the same time they are arguing that Ukraine should be able to do exactly the same thing. So maybe Obrador sees an opportunity here, and it's also from a political standpoint, mouthing off against the United States, just mouthing off against the United States without actually doing anything would score some political points. But if he actually does something really decisive, slaps the U.S. Government in the face with maybe an application into BRICS, if they haven't done it already. I don't think they have. I would have heard about it. If he were to do something like that, some sort of deal with one of the great rivals of the United States, that would definitely increase his chances of getting elected, if he needs to increase those chances at all. I really like Alamo. I really like, it seems to me like as the leadership in the United States gets worse and worse, it seems that some Latin American countries are starting to see a revival in solid leadership. Bukele, I'm a big fan of him as well. So there's that situation going on. I just thought I'd do a quick video on that, and listen, I'm starting to think, as an aside, I'm starting to really believe that it's going to be necessary, if I want to live a nice life, especially a quiet life, as I get older. Eventually it's going to be necessary to leave the United States. I think the tables are going to turn really fast here, and eventually you're going to see people start to leave the United States, emigrate from the United States, just like they were immigrating to the United States from places like Honduras, a country which we had a big hand in destroying, by the way. But the problem with the United States, I have to just add this, the reason it's on the decline, and the reason, people like China, for example, the Chinese government understands this, because they actually understand history and the cyclical nature of the rise and fall of empires. And the reason this is happening is it's not the system, It's not the politicians. It's not the corporations. It's the people of this country that are the problem. The average American in this country has no concept of how their government works or how it's structured. They couldn't name the three branches of the government. We had AOC on television when she first got elected that she couldn't name the three branches of government. I would say that the vast majority of Americans have no clue what the three branches of government are or what their roles are, as what their roles in our society are. For example, they don't know that Congress is primarily the place where appropriations are done and where legislation is written, and they don't understand that the president's job is to run the government and to, do the government regulations when he's given the opportunity to do so by Congress. And then the judiciary, most people don't really understand what the role of the judiciary is, to interpret the laws, to settle disputes in laws, in the interpretation of laws. So most Americans don't understand any of this. They don't understand the basic concepts of how civics works, how government works. They couldn't tell you what a social contract is. This is a problem. And on top of that, they don't understand. They have no concept of money whatsoever. That's why they're perfectly fine with the government printing money to spend, to cover its spending. If they understood that creating money out of nothing is exactly what causes the inflation that we're having now, they would be opposed to it and they wouldn't constantly vote for more spending. But they do, because they don't understand money. They don't understand economics. The average American is completely clueless into that, as far as that's concerned. And finally, of course, I always talk about it, history. Americans are completely historically illiterate. And the reason that has to do with the mass media they've been fed. What history they do get from the mass media is usually completely inaccurate and propagandized. So the problem with not understanding history is, if you understood history, you would be able to see grifters that want to, grifters in politics. You would know the tricks of the trade and see them before these people get in power. You would have known, for example, if you were a member of, if you were a voter in the Bronx, you would have known that AOC was a complete charlatan. I knew that. I had a guy, he's dead now, may he rest in peace. I had a guy, a friend of mine, he was all hysterical. First of all, he's hysterical about socialism. So then he's like, oh my God, AOC, she's going to make everything socialist. I said, no, she's not. She's going to get into power. She's going to do exactly what she's told to do. And she did. Now, if I know that, if a boiler mechanic knows that, certainly most people should understand that, but that's only because I understand history. I see that, I know, I can see the signs of a complete charlatan of a politician, and I can pick them out before they happen. Most people don't. They just go to the polls, okay, and vote for whoever looks good and whoever sounds good and whoever makes the biggest promises. And they don't know whether they can even keep those promises or not. They have no clue. It should be no surprise, for example, that we're close to World War III and that we're in a very intense proxy war right now, because Joe Biden never saw a war he didn't like. He was instrumental in us getting into Iraq. He's been behind every war. So if you stopped and thought about that for a second, you might have understood that Joe Biden was most likely going to get us into another war. So the thing is if you don't know your if Americans don't know their history, they don't know their they don't know their history, they don't know their let me take this. Okay. If you don't know your history, if you don't know how your government's structured, if you don't know economics, if If you don't, just the basics. You don't have to be a master in this stuff. But if you don't know these things, it's not, how can you possibly go to the voting polls and pick a competent leader? How could you possibly do that? And that's the problem, is most Americans can't. They simply cannot distinguish competency in leadership. And that's why, voila, we have terrible leadership in this country. So I think that's where we're at with it. I'm out.